everyone, and welcome to our first Alamo Together Summit of 2022. I'm Christy Wyatt. I'm Associate Vice Chancellor for Communication Engagement for the Alamo Colleges. This is our Alamo Together Remote Summit. Today's summit will be focused on the district's decision to transition employees, many of our employees, back to remote work and continue our operations as best we can to continue to serve our students and provide them every opportunity that they need to succeed. So this morning, we're going to be discussing our current procedures regarding remote work and safety procedures for both students and employees. And we're going to have our district leadership and our HR partners available to answer questions. I know there are many burning questions. I've heard some of them. We've heard some concerns. We've heard some accolades, rumors, and just topics that maybe folks just need to have some affirmation on. So we'll have an opportunity to ask questions and answer them. If you'll look at the bottom of your screen, there's a Q&A button. You can use that button to input questions. I will try to answer as many questions as possible with the panel live, but we'll also have our HR partners answering those directly as well in the chat. So use that Q&A function. And I want to remind you that your HR partners are your lifeline when it comes to questions related to operations and COVID from an employee standpoint. So please utilize this opportunity today to ask your questions, but also reach out to them anytime. They're here to help you, they're here to serve you, and they're really excited about doing so because this is their work. So please, again, avail yourself to that opportunity. This morning, we'll hear from our Chancellor, Dr. Mike Flores, our Associate Vice Chancellor of Human Resources and Organizational Development, Linda Boyer Owens, who'll give a presentation about our current situation. And most importantly, we'll hear from one of our students. Danielle Barrera is joining us today, and she's going to give us a student perspective. We also have joining us today Dr. Jean Sprague, who's the chair of the Alamo College's Board of Trustees. So we're excited to hear from him as well. And like I mentioned at the end of the summit, Dr. Flores, Linda, and our HR partners will answer as many questions as time permits. And so now I would like to welcome Dr. Jean Sprague to the program. Dr. Sprague, welcome and take it away.
Hey, good morning. It's good to be here. It's good to be joining everybody in the new year. On behalf of the Board of Trustees, I'd like to welcome you this morning. We're all looking for some good information on the transition, and I'd like to thank all my fellow board members who I hope are joining us and probably are. They're at home like the rest of you. So my Vice Chair, Dr. Yvonne Katz, our Board Secretary, Clint Kingsbury, Assistant Secretary, Gloria Ray, Joe Alderetti Jr., Ana Bustamante, Dr. Lorraine Polito, Roberto Zarate, and Leslie Sahanovich, and our student trustee, Asia Leha. So on behalf of those trustees, I look forward to this coming year. I'd like to say that we are all very proud of the accomplishments that you've made and helped the district make through this past year. You know, I just got notified we got more recognitions in the area of financial management. So it's everybody pulling together, new heights of student success, pulling together. That's all because of your efforts. So thank you again, and look forward to hearing the information as I know you will. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Sprague. And we want to thank the entire board for the commitment that you've made to the safety and success of our employees and our students. Without this board support, we wouldn't have been able to operate in the way that we have. We wouldn't be one of the only colleges who had an increase in enrollment during the pandemic. And so we thank you for your support. And we look forward to meeting all of the charges that you put forward for us as an organization. Now I'd like to pivot to our Chancellor, Dr. Mike Flores, to talk a little bit more about the decisions that have been made and what that means for us as an Alamo Colleges family. Dr. Flores.
All right. Thank you, Christy. Good morning, Dr. Sprague. Good morning,
Morning.
trustees, and good morning, colleagues. I think all of us, first, just Happy New Year and Feliz Año. And I think we would have never suspected that we would still be dealing with several of the different challenges that we confront. But first and foremost, as Dr. Sprague emphasized, is the safety and security of our students and our staff, and student success, most importantly. So I just want to thank Dr. Sprague and our board leadership and trustees for everything they've done. I want to thank each and every one of you for everything that you've done to ensure that we are successful as an organization, that we back up each other and we back up our students. And that's particularly significant as Omicron variant surge has continued in our community and pretty much has impacted each and every family and household. It's made some changes, as we know that COVID has, and impacted both our community and our daily lives. And we want to let you know that district leadership, and most importantly, our colleagues, your HR partners, are here to answer any questions that you may have, and not only during the summit, but actually on a daily basis. So continue to reach out to them. As you know, over the past 2 years, we've made many adjustments to keep the organization, most importantly, our community safe, and to ensure continued student success. And just as we have in the past, we want to continue to communicate with each and every one of you what this recent announcement means for you and for our students. We will continue to pivot and adjust plans when necessary to ensure the safety of our Alamo College's family, while continuing to provide the highest level of service to our students. And I think that is what is critical for each and every one of us: student success and safety. With this new variant, we're going to monitor the situation and continue to follow available guidance from local and national leaders and partners. And as you know, we made the announcement earlier this week, along with our 2-week virtual start, that we would transition to limited on-campus face-to-face operations. Most employees will continue to work remotely when possible to maintain operations at each and every one of our colleges, at our district campus, and at each one of our regional centers to be able to reduce the spread of the Omicron variant. And employees will provide essential services on each and every one of our campuses. Our college campuses are open, DSO is open, our centers are open, but we're going to operate with a reduced on-site presence. And I think that's what's critical, is to continue to provide those essential services, both to welcome students and to ensure public safety, risk management teams, IT, and other services are available on site so that students can successfully begin the spring 22 semester. And then campus operations, along with instruction, will be back on site on Monday, January 31st. I would like to ensure each and every one of you that the health and safety of our students, employees, and community members remains a priority. So even though we are working remotely largely, we encourage everyone to continue to take the Alamo College's district pledge to show your commitment to health and safety of each and every one of us. Get vaccinated, get boosted, continue to wear a mask indoors, self-report if you have COVID-19 exposure, and then quarantine as needed. I really want to thank each and every one of you for your diligence, because we remain appreciative of your resilience, and we remain appreciative, as Dr. Sprague noted, of your commitment to the organization. There are several things. Dr. Sprague had mentioned the national recognition for one of our teams. We actually had 2 articles, and we'll disseminate that to the whole family, to the board and the family, that went online today. And it is about Alamo Promise, but it's about the support services that all of our students receive, not only in the classroom and connecting with a faculty member, but outside, and being able to provide the support that so many of our students need, and especially during the last 22 months, which have compounded many of the challenges that they confront. There were several students that were profiled, and one is, his name is Robert Gatza, not the president of Palo Alto College, but Robert Gatza is a welding student at St. Philip's College. And he talks about how he has encountered so many challenges in being able to come to college, and how his father always encouraged him to apply for scholarships. But because of Alamo Promise, he was able actually to enroll and is enrolled at St. Philip's. And the article ends and says, "I didn't think that I'd make it this far this fast." And then he has another quote and he says, "My high school would be proud of me." And so I think that's what is important about the work that we do. And that's important about the commitment that each and every one of us have to each other, and the commitment that we have to our students. And I know that in the conversations that each and every one of you have had with our colleagues and with our students, they've said it's been a challenging time. But during these last 22 months, I think we have endured because of the commitment that we have to each other and to students' success, and to students like Robert Gatsa from St. Philip's College. So thank each and every one of you for your commitment. I look forward to the discussion and many of the questions, and that's the intent of today's Alamo Together Summit. Thank you, Christy, and I'm going to turn it back over to you.
Thank you, Dr. Flores. Thank you for the reminder of why we're here and for the success stories. I think we work so hard, and there are so many questions right now about how we can keep one another safe, and people are exhausted after 2 years in a pandemic. But I think the things that keep us going as an organization is hearing those success stories from our students to put things back into perspective. So now I'd like to transition to Linda Boyer Owens, our Associate Vice Chancellor for Human Resources and Organizational Development. Linda and her team have worked tirelessly to ensure that the organization stays as safe as possible. And they've worked together with leadership to help us to outline practices and policies to ensure our safety. And so Linda, I'd like you to join us now to help outline some of the changes and then to reinforce some of the existing policies and practices that we have in place as we move forward. Welcome.
Thank you, Christy. Glad to be here. Good morning, everybody. I'm so glad to see that so many of you could be here this morning. I do want to cover some high points of our return to campus plan for employees, and then save some time for some live questions and answers at the end. But feel free, if you've got questions now, we can start answering some of them in the Q&A module that Christy pointed out to you. Can you get up, Jessica? Next slide. Thank you. Let's start with just a look at the current state. Things really look different today than they did when we went out for winter break, certainly since I reported to you last in mid-November on how we were doing in the community and at Alamo. The positivity rate you've probably seen in our Bexar County is now at 31%. That's the highest or very high over the course of the whole pandemic. For comparison, though, the Alamo College's positivity rate is 16%. Both of these numbers are really a look at what the whole of last week was like at Bexar County and at Alamo Colleges. We screened almost 3,000 employees and students last week at our sites for employees and students. So that's where that data comes from for Alamo. So it's a pretty good sample of our workforce. And on top of that, we know that 82% of our employees self-reported that they were fully vaccinated when we closed the vaccine incentive plan just right around Thanksgiving. So we believe that percentage is even higher today because so many people did take the opportunity to get vaccinated over the holidays. I want to thank you all for working so hard to keep a safe workplace and keep yourself and your families safe. It shows in our numbers that you're really paying attention and taking all the right steps. And so commend you for that. Next slide. So if we kind of start looking at, I think you've probably all seen the update that came out this week by email to our return to campus plan for employees. I want to hit the high points of that in case you might have missed one or two of them. We will be on a limited on-campus face-to-face operation status from January 12th, earlier this week, through January 30th. And on the 31st, then the plan right now is to return back to our original return to campus plan that we had for spring. But we'll be assessing that throughout the next few weeks, as we have been throughout the pandemic, and determine that whether local conditions will still support that or not. We will start next week with remote instruction for all of our classes, except some specific on-site CTE courses that have to be conducted face-to-face for accreditation purposes. And so our students get credit for that course. We also will have a reduced presence of our essential student services personnel in financial aid, advising, advocacy center, Bursar, and areas like that across the college district. And of course, we will have our DPS personnel, our IT personnel, our risk and safety personnel, all on site to make sure that we continue to have our facilities running and a safe environment for everyone who is here on campus. So that is kind of the overview of what's changing in terms of operations. Can you go to the next slide? In terms of protocols, then safety, health and safety protocols, we've had some changes, and a lot of it really has to do with changes in guidance we've received from the CDC. And we will continue, just as we're going to continue to monitor conditions in our community for health and safety and adapt our plans on an ongoing basis as needed. We will monitor CDC guidance to make sure that we are staying in alignment with the latest expert advice on how to respond to any cases of COVID illness within an employee or exposure within our workplace. So what we'll do, as Dr. Flores said, is of course, stay true to our Alamo College's Better Safer Together pledge that he outlined for you. We will continue the daily health and safety check-in stations across the college district, where we will be screening, I think, a little more intensely for any symptoms or exposures that employees or students might have experienced, asking some more pointed questions about that. We will be doing weekly PRC COVID screening for our employees and students, just like we have been. For employees, that will be required weekly screening. For students, it will be voluntary. I would say at this point, please feel free to screen more often. If you feel better about doing it that way, feel free to come in and screen if you are working remote. Certainly our screening program is open to you as long as you're an Alamo employee or an Alamo student. We will continue our commitment to masking. I think we hear that from the CDC, and you're all hearing that on the television about the guidance about upping your game with masks. I heard some very good advice a couple of days ago from the head of the CDC that was, use the best mask you can, but the best mask is probably the best one you can tolerate. So if you are having a difficult time tolerating the KN95 you have, you might want to experiment and see if you can find one that's a little better fit, a little better for your personal situation. So that's kind of the guidance there. I can go into a little more detail if you will go to the next slide. In terms of actual testing positive for COVID, what we are asking employees to do, whether you are vaccinated or unvaccinated, is do a couple of really simple things right away. Notify your supervisor, give them a call and let them know you're sick. Fill out your COVID-19 incident report. The link is online, and I will make sure today that we push that out to you all again so you have it. We're going to ask you to stay home for 5 days. If your symptoms are resolving after 5 days, you'll be cleared by the risk coordinator to return to work with a well-fitting mask. Your risk coordinator is the one who will determine when and if you are ready to return to campus. For a lot of you, for the next few weeks, that's not going to be an issue anyway because you're remote. So most of their priority work is going to be working with the employees that are on site. So please be understanding if they don't get to you first, they're first going to work those cases. This is where you start seeing how important your risk coordinator is. You don't have to remember much of anything, but call them, reach out to your supervisor, file your report, and your risk coordinator will guide you through the rest of the process all the way back through your return to work. Can you go to the next slide? We are hearing from a lot of employees that they are exposed to someone who had COVID. And if that is the case with you, it's the same sort of protocol. You need to notify your supervisor. You need to complete the COVID incident report that's online. And your risk coordinator will determine when you will be cleared to work on site. If you are fully vaccinated, it's likely that you will be able to return on site wearing a mask around others for 10 days. If you develop symptoms, then we're going to ask you to get tested and stay home. If you are not fully vaccinated, then we would ask you to stay home for 5 days. And after that, wear a mask for another 5 days. If you can't quarantine or you can't wear a mask, we'll not clear you to return to campus and you'll be at home. Can you go to the next slide? I think that the most important message I would like to give you, and you heard a little bit of it from Christy already, is that your HR partners and your risk management coordinators on your campus are your guides to all of this complex process that we're looking at to keep you and your families and your workplace safe. They are, I think, I'm thinking of them these days as Sherpas, those guides in Nepal who take the mountain expeditions to the top of Everest. These are the experts who know the terrain, who can guide you safely through a very difficult journey that in an ever-changing environment. And that's really your risk coordinator, that's your HR partner. They are working together in partnership to help you, if you're an employee, to help you as a supervisor. If you're leading a team of your own, they will guide you through these processes. They know the way. You don't have to figure it out yourself, and you shouldn't really try to do it all on your own because there are so many nuances and special situations with each case that comes through. So we would appreciate if you start seeing them as your experts and working closely with them. Can you give us the next slide? This is a list of our campus risk management coordinators and your campus HR partners. I know you probably know who they are, but I wanted to make sure that you see their names again and you see them as a team on your campus. They are constantly updated on how to proceed with the different types of exposures and quarantines. We've asked them to do everything they can to work together to make any exposures or cases of COVID that you might experience as easily navigated as possible. I do have some requests from them. They are, of course, as you might imagine, pretty busy these days. They had a lot of cases that came in over the holidays that they're working. And of course, we've had more cases with that higher positivity rate. But I think there are some things that we can do to help them help you and get their work done as quickly as possible. Number one, just please don't come to campus if you're sick. Number two, if you are having symptoms or you feel you've been exposed, report that promptly. The risk coordinators have asked me to emphasize that you shouldn't wait. Don't wait a few days. Report it if you think you might have been exposed or you think you might have symptoms, so that they can get with you quickly and help you assess what the next steps would be for you. If you call your risk coordinator or your HR partner, they need you to leave a message and leave your name and your phone number. Don't call and just keep trying to call them back and connect. They have a lot of calls coming in and going out. They would appreciate a message so they can get with you as efficiently as possible. We're seeing that a lot of employees have their names blocked, so we're not sure who called. So it would be great if you would just leave that message with your name and your phone number. Call the risk coordinator back promptly if they call you, because they may have important information for you. Again, this is a don't delay situation. And keep in mind, whether you're an employee or a supervisor, the risk coordinator is really the only person that can clear you to return to campus. And so supervisors, don't worry that you have to figure that out. Employees, don't worry that you have to figure that out. The risk coordinator will guide you through that process. You're calling on a group of folks that are really very dedicated to helping you get through this in a great way and make your journey as seamless and painless as it can possibly be. Can you go to the next slide then? I just want to thank you all in closing and just you know, make note that you're just doing an extraordinary job under some really extraordinary circumstances. I see it every day. I'm so impressed, and I just want to say that it's such an honor to be on this journey with you all. And I wish you the best, because you are the best. Thank you.
Thank you, Linda. That was a wonderful presentation, full of information. I know a lot of questions have been answered just through the presentation. We do want to now invite one of our students to share a little bit more about her experience and the sentiment of her peers. I'd like to invite Danielle Barrera with Northwest Vista College. She's the SGA president there, and she's our student district council chair. It's always a pleasure to talk to you, Danielle. I'm excited to have you join us for the summit. My first question to you is, what is the sentiment among your peers about starting the semester remotely?
Thank you, Ms. Wyatt. I really do appreciate always being, always having student voice included on everything that we do here at Alamo Colleges. The sentiment, students that I've spoken with so far are understanding, maybe a little disappointed, but it makes sense. We're all trying to navigate this pandemic together. And at the end of the day, we care about protecting our own health and the health of those that we love. And at this point, most of us are used to navigating a lot of things virtually, not just college. After all, adaptability is an important life skill to have. We definitely look forward to being back on campus, but we want to do so safely.
And I think that is what I've heard echoed as well. We've had a couple of student forums, and students have mixed emotions from what I understand. I know that it's disappointing to not be on site and have that full college experience, but there are a lot of students from what I've heard that are experiencing anxiety. Have you heard that as well?
Absolutely. Absolutely. There's a lot of anxiety when you're on campus, and there's a lot of variables, people wearing masks, people choosing not to wear masks, those are all things that, can cause anxiety of, returning back on campus. So I think it's definitely important to take all of that into consideration. And it seems like that is exactly what's going on.
Yeah, so we've tried to do a really good job of providing resources to students. So the pledge, student testing is available and open to all students. We've been pushing, along with SDC and other student groups, our mental health and our advocacy services. But what else can faculty and staff do to support students as we navigate this semester and continue the learning process within a pandemic?
Right. Well, I think it's crucial to promote a general understanding that we're all human and we have various levels of comfort with being around people during the current surge. So clear communication from our instructors about what's expected as far as meetings and assignments will be vital as we transition. And then from student services, I think just a continued willingness to serve our students in whatever capacity that they are comfortable with, whether that be remotely or in person.
Thank you for that. I know we'll take that to heart, and we've already been doing a lot of those things, but continue to implement. I want to thank you, Danielle, again for joining us, but I also want to thank you and your colleagues on SCC, our student trustees, and all the student leaders. I have seen the work that you all have put in over this pandemic to continue to represent the student body, to continue to share student voice, and to ensure that each of our students know what opportunities and what is available to them to help them succeed. So big congratulations to you and your colleagues. Thank you so much. We look forward to hearing from you more.
Thank you.
Thank you. And now I would like to bring back Dr. Flores and Linda. We also have our HR partners behind the scenes as we move into our Q&A portion of the programming. Lots of questions coming in. I see the HR fingers moving really fast, typing questions behind the scenes. But there are some questions that I'd like to bring forward that I think would be beneficial for all of us to hear the answers to collectively. I think the first couple of questions are about testing. One question that's recurring that I've heard throughout our situation with testing is about if you have a positive result, how soon do you come back to test? Do you continue to test? Do you wait? Is it 60 days? Is it 90 days? Linda and team, can you give us the parameters around testing protocols after a positive result?
Yeah, I can help you with that, Christy. The CDC guideline is 90 days. If you're taking a PRC test, which is what we're offering at Alamo College, that's what community labs across the city offers, is the PRC test. It's so sensitive that it will pick up just remnants of COVID, even though you're actually not infectious anymore. So for that reason, they don't want us to test for 90 days. You could use an antigen test, the home test, if you want to check yourself, but that's not required. So 90 days, I know we had a slip and I'll take accountability for that. First guidance we pushed out a week or so ago said 60 days, but it's always been 90 days.
Okay, thank you for that. The other question that we're hearing is for those folks who are working remotely or who may be quarantined, who may have symptoms, who may have family members who are positive, are they still allowed to participate in our employee COVID testing, or what is the protocol? I know that initially the advice was asymptomatic folks can test in our employee line. If you're symptomatic, you can go to one of our community centers, which we now have on campuses as well. But what if you're asymptomatic, but you are quarantined?
I think it's a great example of following your risk coordinator's guidance and advice, because every scenario is different. And that's really, if you're quarantined, you should be working very closely with your risk coordinator, and they're going to help you determine when and if you should be screened again, and what kind of test you should use if you want to test. Does that
Thank
help,
you.
Christy?
Yeah, that's very helpful. And I think even just the reminder that if we are exposed, that we should reach out to our risk coordinator. I know that lots of folks maybe didn't know that, or I don't know if it's always occurred, but just reiterating that point is helpful as well. But the risk coordinators are there to serve us, and those questions can be answered on an individual basis, because certainly there are many factors when it comes to exposure. The other question I had, which we've answered a couple of times in the chat, is I'm working remotely. I don't live anywhere near my office. Do I have to go to my home college or home office to test?
We're happy to have employees and students test at any of our locations. It doesn't matter where you test, your results still get captured for your home location. Very, very happy, and honestly, I've seen a number of employees here at DSO this week that work at other locations. Yeah, so it works. There's no barrier to that.
The other question that I have that I've seen a couple of times is there is a little bit of a backlog with the folks that are working risk management and contact tracing. Understandably so. We see the numbers both in the community and at Alamo, but there are folks who have been waiting to hear back on the release and the return to work. I know that there maybe is some eagerness to get back on the job, especially if folks are using their time. So can we talk about how we are addressing some of those backlog issues for people who are just sort of in a pending state?
We sure can. We have worked this week, HR and the risk management teams and their VPs to bring on additional resources. We've reached out across the college district and identified quite a few employees that didn't have an assignment right now, who really were very excited about being able to assist in this effort, to be trained and assist in a variety of different roles. And so we will be doing that. I think we've brought on board 15 already in the last couple of days. So that should help. And honestly, having so many people go remote is going to kind of slow the stream of more cases that need to be worked very quickly because the people are working on site. So we're excited about that.
Now let's switch focus to masks. There are a number of questions about masks. One, the very first question, and this is an organizational question, why do we not require masks?
So we know that there are a variety of tools that are required during the last 22 months that we've utilized. And we know that all of those together work to mitigate the spread of COVID. So we do not require masks, but we have other tools that are fully utilized. They're not required, but they're definitely recommended, right, to be able to utilize. And I think that is what's most important, is to be able to do that. The other part is, I think one of the strongest elements in our arsenal is also being able to the PCR testing, right, and being able to utilize that. And that is not only something that is helpful for the individual, their family, and for colleagues in Alamo, but now where there is a shortage, it's actually even convenient. So I think that is the most important thing, to be able to do that. I do want to thank the presidents, right? I want to thank Dr. Loston and Dr. Godsa for opening up their college campuses and allowing for discrete testing to occur for community members. I think that is most important. And we saw, coming back from the holidays in particular, with the uptick with regard to this variant, and then also at DSO. I want to thank our HR team and everybody coming together to be able to offer that. I saw the long lines, in particular at DSO. We had the announcement Thursday morning with the mayor and the judge, Dr. Sprague, Dr. Gutson, Dr. Lawston. Of course, several of you, Christy, Linda, Lacey, were out there. And that line looked very long. I went actually later that afternoon with both of my daughters because they have allergies. And so we wanted to just have that sense of security and waited in that long line that actually only took about 17 minutes. So I think that's the other part, is knowing the tools that we have that provide for the safety and security. They mitigate, right? They may mitigate the spread of COVID-19, but also the being able to provide that service to the families of our students, to our families, and to our neighbors within the community. So all of those are part of that arsenal. So they're recommended, but not required. And I know walking around DSO and other sites, I utilize my face covering.
So I have a follow-up question for Linda, and I'm going to ask you to put on your HR employee relations hat and your critical conversations hat. For those folks who are working on site and there's a colleague who's coughing or who doesn't wear a mask and you have a concern, how do we approach that situation? What do we do to ensure our own safety, but to be a delicate and respectful employee?
That's a great question. And actually, when I met with Executive Staff Senate yesterday, they had the same question, and it's a fair one. And I think it's what we always do when we see something in the workplace that gives us some concern, some legitimate concern. We should pick up the phone and let our risk coordinator know, and they can follow up on any sort of scenario that Dr. Flores is sneezing, that we can follow up on that as a workplace safety matter. It may be fine. We may already know about it and have vetted it, but maybe not. And better safe than sorry. We sort of agreed yesterday. If we see something, we should say something. And it's not personal. It's just keeping the workplace safe.
That's great advice. I know that can be sensitive, and sometimes it's really a simple answer. So thank you for sharing that. The next question I have, Linda, is around the community labs, their testing. Certainly, it's been a great addition to be able to bring our families to the testing site, or if we're symptomatic, to be able to have a testing site on our campuses. But when we saw that new testing site, and the expansion of testing and the number of positives within our community with folks scrambling to get tested, we also saw a delay in test results. And so for those folks who are saying, I used to get my test and I'd get my result the same day or early the next day, and now it's been several days, what do you know about how Community Labs is addressing this and what the turnaround time will look like now?
Yeah, Community Labs has worked just as hard as we've all been working here throughout the pandemic, maybe even harder if that's possible. They did accept the challenge from Metro Health a week ago, Tuesday, to stand up mass testing sites throughout the city within 48 hours. And that's how we connected with that project. That's a huge undertaking. And of course, they didn't have enough staff on day one to cover all the bases with as many screeners as they would like. So they resolved that issue fairly quickly. But the next hurdle they faced, and this is kind of an interesting pandemic case study, is they couldn't get the reagents in fast enough to process all the samples they had collected. At our sites, we were testing between 2,000 and 3,000 people per day, and they have 6 sites running like that. So you can see the volume was great. They have the capacity in terms of equipment and personnel to process it, but they didn't have the reagents. So they have resolved their supply chain issue now, but they have a backlog of results that they're still processing through. I have to commend them on their communication with us. Like I'm sure a lot of other employees watching, received text messages from community labs that told us what was going on, and that our results would be delayed. We know, because we work with them, that they actually were running 24/7. They never stopped their operation to process those results, to the point that they actually even had employees sleeping in the lab to run the tests. So they are all hands on deck in extraordinary ways to get our results to you. So that they do appreciate how important it is for you to have quick turnaround on that. And I think they'll get back to their 24-hour turnaround here pretty quick.
Yes, that's good to know. And I've had communication with them as well. They told me that they actually have staff sleeping on site trying to process those tests very quickly. So they're doing the best they can. And I've been receiving text messages from them. I know they're pushing them out to folks who test. So they are doing a great job with communication. I think the other question that I had that I'm seeing that is recurring here in our chat is about testing sites, and if there are changes in the testing sites, how those will be communicated, if they'll be communicated. I know a few times we've had to pivot times, and there's also been locations that have had to have a change in how it's done. So can you address that?
Yeah, in terms of the location, relocating the employee student testing sites, we did move, I know, at least a couple of sites this week as we stood up the public testing, so that those, two populations who are being tested wouldn't have to cross, our employees wouldn't have to cross the public testing line. And so the public wouldn't get confused and end up in the lines for employees and students. So we've relocated a couple of sites. The other thing that happened when we first stood up the public sites is community labs had to pull back on the number of screeners they could give to Alamo colleges and also to all the school districts that they screen. So we as an institution had to gear up a bit and find more folks from within our ranks who could help us with the screening process to be trained and do that. So you see our hours and actually some days of testing didn't happen over the past week. And that's because we just didn't have the staff. Nobody had the staff to cover the spot. But I think that now we're past that hurdle, bringing on those additional resources to help us. So the schedules for employee and student testing should stay the same now. They should be very stable going forward, because we've sort of adjusted to the new higher volume.
Great, thank you for that. I have a comment that was made that I'd like to just share, not a question, but this is from Catherine, and she says, I appreciate the care that Alamo Colleges is demonstrating towards staff, faculty, and students. Friends who work in other places, including governmental agencies, are not being offered PPE or testing or the accommodations that we received. And so I believe many of our employees are thankful for this. We appreciate it. But moving forward, as we start this new semester, as we welcome our students back on campus, Linda, from your perspective, and you, Dr. Flores, as well, what can we do to ensure that our students have a seamless experience? I know this is difficult for them with the uncertainty of, am I going to be in the classroom? Am I going to be at home? I know that Danielle addressed some of the needs that students have, but from a leadership perspective and from a health and safety perspective, what can we do to help our students to have a successful semester?
I think it's really the continuing that connection that is provided with the faculty member, academic advisor, and staff. So ensuring that we have that personalized connection with them. That oftentimes could be a phone call, that could be a Zoom connection, right? A virtual connection. That's also on site. So being able to answer any questions that they have. The workforce programs are largely going to be on each of the college campuses, and will start this coming Tuesday on campus. They've been notified, students have been notified by their faculty member or department. Once again, that personalized connection. And then arts and sciences classes will be virtual, and then will come onto campus, conditions pending, right, on Monday, the 31st. So I think it is, once again, as has been emphasized today, is being able to connect with someone, to have someone that's going to answer those questions and provide information. And that goes for each one of us, to be able to rely on information from your HR partner, from your risk management coordinator, and then to look for information from public relations and for engagements such as a summit. As we've shown during the last 22 months, we think it's important for all of us to get together to be able to share information. If you have any questions, please pose those. If you're asked and contacted by your HR partner for a rounding report, please provide them with the necessary feedback. That really helps all of us ensure that we are able to continue operations, most importantly, to back each other up, and that students, as you noted, Christy, have a seamless start to the spring semester. I think that is so important for them to be able to have a seamless connection on campus or online this coming Tuesday and Wednesday. And then the other part, which I think is very exciting news, is the launch of Alamo Books Plus, right? Being able to also ensure that that's seamless. I want everybody to remember it's the first semester that we're doing this. We know there are lots of questions related to that too, but think of the opportunity that we continue to provide our students with the resources that they need, particularly during this pandemic, to be successful and connect. So it's both high tech, but most importantly, it's high touch. And so just want to thank you and all of our colleagues for the support that you've provided to all of us and to each one of our students.
I think that sums it up. I think those are words for us to move forward with, to be prepared as we come into the new semester with our students and to serve the colleges if we're a DSO employee. So thank you for that. I want to thank everyone who joined us today. Linda, thank you for the valuable information you shared, and the HR partners who are standing by to continue to answer questions both here and after this summit is over. Dr. Sprague, thank you for the inspiration that the board provides to us and the encouragement and leadership. And of course, thank you all for joining us. Danielle, a special thanks to you. We're always glad to have a chat with you. I ask that each of you continue to check out our website at alamo.edu. We have a link there at the top of the page you can click through to get information. We try to keep that up to date. It will have all the information on how to contact your HR partner, testing sites, and other information about any changes. So we look forward to keeping you informed in that way. I hope everyone has a great weekend and a great holiday. And thank you again. Stay well.